The Nightmare in the Hospital. The hospital was old and run down, with peeling wallpaper and flickering fluorescent lights. The smell of antiseptic and sickness hung heavy in the air. Nurse Sarah had been working the night shift for far too long, and she was growing increasingly wary of the monotony of her job. But tonight, something was different. The patients on her floor seemed restless and agitated. They moaned and cried out in their sleep, as if they were in the grip of some terrible nightmare. Sarah made her rounds. She was about to head back to the nurse's station when she heard a strange noise coming from one of the rooms. It was a low, guttural growling, like something wild and animalistic. She hesitated for a moment before approaching the door. The growling grew louder as she approached, and she could feel her heart pounding in her chest. She slowly pushed the door open, her hand shaking. Inside, the room was dark and empty, except for the bed in the corner. The growling was coming from underneath the bed. Sarah's heart was in her throat as she reached for the light switch. She flickered it on, and the room was bathed in a sickly yellow light. Underneath the bed, she saw a figure writhing and twisting, its body contorted in impossible ways. Its skin was a sickly pale color, almost translucent. Its eyes were black and soulless, and its mouth was wide open, revealing razor-sharp teeth that glinted in the light. Sarah screamed and ran from the room, her heart pounding in her chest. She ran to the nurse's station, where the other nurses were huddled together, whispering and looking at her with wide eyes. "What's wrong?" one of the nurses asked. "There's something in one of the rooms," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "It's under the bed, and it's not human." The other nurses looked at each other in alarm, and one of them called security. A few minutes later, 2 security guards arrived, guns drawn. They followed Sarah back to the room, where the growling could still be heard. The guards cautiously approached the bed and looked underneath. But there was nothing there. The room was empty. Nothing but a bed and the medical equipment. The growling had stopped, and the room was silent. The guards and nurses looked at each other in confusion. "I swear it was there," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "It was under the bed, and it was not human." The guards looked at each other and shrugged. They searched the room but found nothing out of the ordinary. "Maybe it was just your imagination," one of the guards said, patting Sarah on the back. "You've been working the night shift for a long time, and it can play tricks on your mind." But Sarah knew what she had seen. It was not her imagination. It was real, and she knew that she would never forget the terror of that night. That was the first time Sarah had seen the creature, but it would not be the last. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen in the hospital. Patients would disappear from their rooms, only to turn up later in different parts of the building. Some claimed to have seen a ghostly figure in the halls, while others reported strange noises and voices whispering in their ears. The staff was on edge, and the hospital was plagued by an eerie sense of unease. Sarah tried to put the incident out of her mind, but she couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled in her chest. She tried to tell herself that it was just her imagination, but deep down she knew that something was not right. As the days passed, the strange occurrences only increased. Patients were found wandering the halls in the middle of the night, their eyes wide with fear. They reported seeing a dark figure lurking in the shadows, watching them with soulless black eyes. Sarah was working the night shift again when she heard a commotion coming from one of the patients' rooms. She rushed to investigate, and what she found chilled her to the bone. The patient in the room was lying on the bed, writhing in pain. But that was not the worst of it. The patient's body was contorting and twisting in unnatural ways, as if something was trying to break out from inside. Sarah could feel the bile rising in her throat as she watched in horror. Suddenly, there was a loud tearing sound, and the patient's body split open, revealing a grotesque creature that was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. It was a twisted, monstrous thing with razor-sharp teeth and black, soulless eyes. Sarah screamed and ran from the room, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear the creature's howls of rage echoing through the hospital as she ran to the nurses' station. The other nurses were in a state of panic, and the hospital was thrown into chaos. Patients were running and screaming, trying to escape the nightmare that had taken hold of their home. In the end, the hospital was closed and all the patients were transferred to other facilities. The staff, including Sarah, were given therapy and counseling to help them cope with the traumatic events they had witnessed. But Sarah knew that she would never be the same again. The memory of that night would haunt her forever. The hospital still stands to this day, abandoned and decrepit. But some say that on certain nights, when the moon is full, you can still hear the howls of the creature that once haunted its halls. And some say that if you're brave enough to venture inside, you may catch a glimpse of a dark figure lurking in the shadows, watching you with soulless black eyes.